Poland is a fascinating country filled with culture and adventure. But have you ever wondered about its strangest attractions? Well, that's precisely what we will discover in today's live episode of Cult America. So, in our countdown, we will start in the northeastern region of the country at Poland's most famous pyramid. Now, I had the pleasure of visiting this when I was recording my show for TVP named Undiscovered, so you can actually find it there. But in short, what I can tell you is that the RAPA pyramid was built in the early 19th century. It's located in a small village in the Masurian region near the border of Kaliningrad, Russia. It was built in a seeming sense of Egyptian origin, and I think that's quite clear. You couldn't really argue with that when you look at the defining pyramid. And for the region, it's starkly out of place. Now, this was commissioned by a local baron who was a landowner as well as a passionate lover of ancient Egypt. He collected a lot of the art from Egypt and was said to embrace the culture or what was known of it at the time. Now, being fascinated in this unusual history of the Egyptian pyramids, he wanted to build something similar on his land where his family, the Fahrenheit family, would remain through eternity. Now, this goal was sadly accomplished when his youngest daughter passed away. The commissioning of the tomb was carried out by a Danish sculptor who also created some iconic architecture in Warsaw. But what I can tell you is that this brick pyramid from 1815 is a disturbing place because, monuments aside, it indeed holds the remnants of the man's entire family. As I mentioned, the first one to pass and sadly enter the tomb was his 3-year-old daughter. When visiting this bizarre pyramid, her coffin was the one that stood out, and her coffin was the reason that I didn't quite want to stay there and visit longer than I needed to. All of the bodies were laid in the tomb, and there's a theory that they were mummified. Now, that does fit with the theme of the architecture, of course, but whether or not the bodies are mummified, I couldn't really tell you. That is the local gossip, of course. So if you are ever in northeast Poland, near the border of Kaliningrad, you should absolutely visit this pyramid. It's a fascinating sight, and you will surely remember it for the end of your days. One last little piece of trivia. When I visited this temple, this pyramid, I asked the landowners, the locals, where the palace that was associated with this great pyramid was, because often was the case that palaces had their burial grounds on site, but like not too close to home. And they said that the palace itself is located on the other side of the border, so today it would be rather impossible to visit that. So I think it's a destination worth visiting, and it is surely one of Poland's strangest. Next up, we have the Chapel of Skulls. Now, this is another one that I had an opportunity to visit. I saw this chapel during the pandemic, and it was, well, disgusting. I don't have any other words to describe it. This chapel is a monument. It's one of only 6 such monuments in the entirety of Europe. I'm sure that you've seen images of the catacombs in Paris, so on and so forth. It's very much in that style, but the story goes as follows. In 1776, a Bohemian local who was a parish priest decided that he wanted to put together a mass grave for all the bodies that had accumulated over the centuries. Now, these bodies came from tragic events such as the 30 Years' War between 1618 and 1648, the 3 Silesian Wars between 1740 and 1763, and then kind of miscellaneous various epidemics that plagued Europe, syphilis, people who died of hunger. When you enter this chapel of skulls, as they call it, although it has much more than skulls, two things become eminent. Of course, the fact that this reality is waiting for you on the other side. You know, no mortal human is going to avoid that thought when they are confronted with this type of imagery. But the other thing that comes across, of course, is just how many people have come and gone, you know, throughout the centuries. This is actually kind of a small collection of bones when compared to the entirety of humanity, and yet it's enough to make up an entire chapel. So, do I recommend that you visit this? Well, that's up to you. But if you'd like to see what hundreds of years of human bones looks like, kind of as a collective, well, then Kudowy Zdrój would be your destination. Something a little more fun is Poland's Gravity Hill. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard of a gravity hill. This is a phenomenon that is something of a visual illusion, which presents a roadway which is going down to visually look as if it's going up. And it is the strangest thing, because if you're traveling this road by car, you can actually take your foot off the gas pedal and let the car just idle. And it will go at a rapid pace because physically the car is moving down. But as you can see from this image here, the roadway clearly seems to go up. Now, you can also do experiments with balls, round objects, to just let gravity go ahead and take its force on objects and let them roll down the hill. And it is the most mind-boggling thing. It's a lot of fun. I highly recommend that you head to Karpacz and experiment with that for yourself. One last note on this. This isn't the only illusion in Karpacz. There's actually an entire museum dedicated to illusions, which is very, very fun. I definitely encourage you to visit. The local folklore of the region is, it's a fun thing to experiment with. Now, the next one I know you guys will know. This is Poland's Crooked Forest, also known as Krzywy Las. It's an oddly shaped assortment of pine trees near Gryfno, Poland. And the thing that makes this particular site so mind-boggling is that although there's small chance that this occurred naturally, no one really knows how the forest formed in this way. So what we do know is that there were 400 pine trees planted around 1930, and each of these trees bends sharply to the north, just above ground level, and then it curves back upright again after its sideways execution, 3 to 9 feet or 1 to 3 meters, creating a rather unusual, bizarre sight to behold. This collection, this assortment of crooked pine trees is surrounded by a forest of completely straight pine trees. And it's that kind of leads to the confusion. This couldn't be from wind. It was most probably created of human manipulation, but we don't know what tools or techniques were used to make the trees grow and bend in this way. I mean, it's so extreme that the methods must have been clever, because if you have a look one more time at the oddity of these trees, human manipulation shouldn't actually allow them to grow that way. You know, most plants would die if you restrain them too much. So it is it's a little bit of a mind-boggling phenomenon. Of course, this is one of the sites that I have yet to see. It's on my bucket list, but I will certainly visit it sooner than later. And on a final note, the Crooked Forest is a protected national monument of Poland. And so we can expect that it will be with us for some time. Now, here we have a castle. And this isn't just any castle. This is the castle in Gniew, which is one of the best preserved outhouses in all of Europe. Yes, you heard me correctly. This is an outhouse. Now, what you don't see in this image is the river that flows nearby, presumably once below. And the concept here was that hygiene in the medieval times, well, it was important because even a small bout of food poisoning or polluted water could cause you to die. And for that reason, the excrement that was left from the toilets, which were in the castle, would fall into a stream, a river, or a moat, with the hope that the flowing water could take away the impurities. Now, this is not a completely unique phenomenon. If you visit the castles across Poland, you will see solutions similar to this time and again. But what makes an impression is kind of the grandeur of the structure altogether. You know, it's a very, very regal way of, how can I say this? Taking a shit. So, sorry guys. We leave this one on a rather uncultural note, but I hope you enjoyed the 5 bizarre locations that I chose for you in Poland. And there are many, many more. In fact, I think we could make this a reoccurring series. And so if you have other weird sites in Poland that you'd like us to show here on Cult America, please leave your comments in the comment section. Share the video, and hopefully we will meet again soon. Until next time, have a good evening.